What's up, YouTube? Happy Canada Day to those who live in Canada. This came out a couple days ago, or yesterday actually, but I've just been busy. The devs of Cadence Ray have released their Dev Note 3, covering a few more things. This will still be a pretty short video, however, there are some pretty important things that they did mention. So the first one is the usual, where people are wondering what platforms King's Raid will be available on. We already know that it's going to be on Steam and it's going to be on iOS and Android. That shouldn't be different, but they just mentioned or specified rather, that there's going to be 4K resolution via Steam, which means the game will look pretty good, especially for streamers. If you plan on streaming the game like I am, the game will look, or should look, a lot better than it used to when we used to have to stream it through emulators. A lot of the questions, which I don't understand how people think this is the case, where they think that their data will be carried over from their previous account to the current one. I know a lot of people who are, doesn't matter if you're free to play or a spender previously, but when companies sell the rights of all assets and game files, it does not include player data ever. So there is no reason to believe that you would be able to re-sign into your old accounts. Vespa is not the same as Masangsoft or Masangsoft, so there was no reason to think that, excuse me, that would be the case. We are starting new. Everyone's starting on an even playing field. Don't ever expect to have your old account back. It's just not going to happen. We have confirmation now that they will also be recruiting heroes the same way via the inn, which is giving gifts over time, daily, to where you could just spam gifts to auto recruit a character, or give gifts every day. You give a free one and you'll eventually get the character. And via, I would assume, gems like we used to, where it was like a 2,500 gem package. You would get the character and like, think maybe a skin or something. I don't remember what the exact was, but yeah, it seems like the way you recruit heroes is exactly the same as before. And then they'll add a new special shop. Or additionally, they said they'll add the special shop the same way like it used to be. They talked about the Transcendence rework. They're going to revert their plans on Transcendence rework, making it to where players have the ability to modify characters the way they want to for specific content. I think that's still good. We don't know what they mean by player-friendly way or making it easier, so we'll have to see for details on that. They're essentially just reiterating that soul weapons will not be a mandatory power function, which also means that our overall power for our characters will be weaker. I'm assuming closer to where it was before soul weapons were even released. Which I guess if you were a spender or a long-term player, characters didn't feel necessarily weak because we had artifacts that you could star, we had unique weapons, we had unique treasures, awakenings and stuff like that. Team synergy was also a very powerful thing back then, so we'd have to see how important it'll be. If soul weapons aren't a mandatory gate, it doesn't mean that they won't add power to characters at all, but it just doesn't seem like they're going to be as game-changing as they were when they were released. So personally, I liked soul weapons. I liked what they added to the game, but I do agree that with the way we were limited back then, especially with things like Trial of the God King and everything, which they already said they're changing because soul weapons are changing. It's hard to say how impactful soul weapons will actually be when the game comes out. And actually completely forgot that this function was a thing, which were raiders, which are essentially pets. These pets don't provide any in-battle effects, as I'm aware, but they do provide stats to your entire account. So pulling for pets was essentially a mandatory function because it didn't game-breakingly change anything outside of if you kept pulling and got dupes or higher pets, but they did add power to specific contents. There were pets that give you more damage in guild bosses and raid bosses and all that stuff, so it was an important thing. That's all they really touched on. There isn't really much else to say. It's a pretty short dev note, but they did touch on a few things that people were still curious about that I've been seeing in the feedback section, so good on Masangsoft for continuously putting out these dev notes every couple months, whatever. And we hope to see, further development of the game and hopefully more details on some things we're curious about. And as usual, happy Canada Day, everyone, and I'll see you guys next time.